may have heard the sentence or the adage that says that nothing is permanent in life but change. Change is the only thing that is constant and that is permanent throughout our lifetime. And if you've heard that before, then I'm 98% sure that you agree with me. But I have a question. When you know or do not know the things you want to change, how do you actually enact that change? What does it take to make change happen? What does it take to become that better version of you? You maybe started this year or came on this video because you saw an ad, or maybe you came because you have this desire, this passion burning in you to be the best version of yourself, to upgrade yourself, to be a better you. How do you make that change happen? I'm bringing good news today, and the good news is that there is a scientifically proven method for enacting change. Yes, there is. There are different stages to change, and that's what we'll be talking about today. 5 stages of change towards a better life. If this is your first time, please subscribe, like, share with a friend, and drop a comment. And I'll see you right after this clip. Welcome back again to Leading with Glory. My name is Glory Divine, and as always, it is my utmost pleasure to have you here today. If this is your first time, this is a place where young people are made to be leaders that God can trust and that men will want to follow. So let's dive into the topic of today: stages of change towards a better life. You want a better life. You want that blossom career. You want to fulfill purpose. You want to make it in destiny. You want to achieve success. You want to make an impact in your community, in your nation, or even on the global stage. It all begins with one change. One change. There are so many things we need to change in ourselves, that it should be behaviors, that it should be upgrading the way we communicate, that it should be upgrading our self-development tools, that it should be reading more, that it should be writing more, that it should be distracted less. There are so many things that we need to do. And the key to that blossoming future you want is a change. It might be one change, it might be 2 changes, it might be more. But the one thing that is sure is you never rise up to the next season, and you never rise up to the next level of your glory without putting some change to work. So today I'm talking about the different stages of change. Before change happens, there are so many things that happen. And the first stage of change is pre-contemplation. This is when you don't even see it as a problem. This is where the behavior that you are trying to change, you don't really see it as a problem. There are people, for example, who can insult everybody, and they don't see that as a problem. They are not realizing that not talking with respect to people is a problem. They are not realizing that not being punctual is a problem. And you cannot change what you don't deem necessary to change. If you don't know that you have a bad behavior, you will almost never change it. So the first stage of change is pre-contemplation. We usually see it in the phase where someone has a bad character but will not admit that as a problem. Or there is a problem in front of them, like for example, their school teacher is not the best. And they are the principal of the school. But they will not just see that as a problem. For them, it's normal. All schools have bad teachers. So why should I put pressure on myself to change it? They have not yet recognized the problem. And because they haven't recognized the problem, they cannot be in the phase of solving the problem. So my first question to you is, what are those behaviors that people keep telling you about? What are those character traits that people keep telling you about, that they are bad, but you refuse to see them as a problem? What are those situations that people keep complaining about? You are trying to start a business, but there are people around you that keep telling you, oh, if only we had bread nearby. We have to drive to go buy bread. Oh, if only we had this nearby. Oh, we might need a barber shop nearby. You keep hearing complaints. But in your head, it haven't yet registered as a problem. You're in the pre-contemplation phase. So my advice to you right now is to stop and think to yourself, what are those characters? What are those things that people keep bringing up that are ignored or classified as a non-problem, whereas there's actually a problem in it? The second stage of phase is contemplation. We've talked about pre-contemplation. Now let's talk about contemplation. Contemplation is when you realize that or accept that there is actually a problem, but you are still debating whether or not you should solve it. You know that when you speak, you are not fluent in terms of organizations of your thoughts, but you are still debating, should I do something about it or not? You know that you are not punctual at work and that it might be causing you some issues, but you are still debating, should I or should I not? You're in the contemplation stage. The contemplation stage is when you know a problem is there. In a way, you have weighted the pros, the advantages, and the disadvantages of changing this behavior, but you are still trying to decide, should I change or not? This is not a place where we need to tell you what you are doing wrong. This is not a place where we need to tell you about that behavior again. You already know it. It's like you come to someone like me and you're like, you are dark. I'll be like, yes, I know I am dark. It's no longer in news. You're not breaking any news here. Or you say you are not a white person. I know I am not white. I know I am African and I'm black. So it's no longer a breaking news. In the contemplation phase, people telling you about your problem is no longer a breaking news. You know it. You know that you lack integrity. You know that you lack communication skills. You know that you have to improve your hygiene. You know. At this phase, you already know. Now the whole question is, will you change it? This is my advice to you. If you realize that you're in a contemplation phase, decide to change. You've weighted the pros, you've weighted the cons, you've weighted everything, you know about it. It's not okay just to be aware of the problem. It becomes a solution when you decide to change it. Provide a solution, decide to change. We've been talking here on this platform about self-development. You know you are young, you know you have dreams, you know you have passions, but you are still contemplating the idea of, should I develop myself or not? You are still trying to decide, should I read more books or not? Should I seek after knowledge or not? Should I stay for wisdom or not? You are in the contemplation phase, and I understand, but my advice for you is, take it, do it, decide to enact the change. And this leads me to the third stage of change, which is action. This is when you finally decide to make the change happen. This is when you decide to take action. This is when you've weighted the cons, you've weighted the pros. You know this thing is there, and now you decide, I am going to do something about it. This is an exciting place to be. This is where you decide to put 2 and 2 together and make them 4. This is when you decide to make the addition. Now, there is a challenge a lot of people get when they decide to make the change happen. They don't know where to start. They don't know what action to take. I have 3 advices for you. The first advice I'll have for you is start with the bare minimum you can. When you are trying to go for a gym or start with gyms, exercises, people that do gymming a lot will tell you, don't try to do 10 hours the first day. Don't try to go to the gym 5 hours the first week. Start with once a week. Start with twice a week, 30-minute session. Then gradually increase it, gradually. So I would say my first advice, if you're trying to decide which step to take, what action to take, the first thing I would say is start with the bare minimum. It can be reading 1 chapter of a book per day. It can be reading 1 book per month. It can be reading even 3 books per year, but start with the bare minimum. It can be listening to 1 podcast that is intellectually and morally and spiritually sound for yourself per week. Start with the smallest steps you can. Baby steps are still steps, and it is through baby steps that the baby learns how to run. So I'll say it again, start with the smallest step. The second thing that I would say if you are trying to enact change is to make yourself accountable. Who are the people that could be your accountability partner? Seek an accountability partner. It could be a sibling, it could be a friend, it could be a parent. It should be someone who is also very excited about the journey you are taking. It shouldn't be someone that would discourage you on the path of success. It should be someone that will be pushing you, that will be asking you, oh bro, have you read your chapter? We'll be like, hey sister, what did that chapter say? Hey sister, I heard that you wanted to learn how to braid. Have you started yet? Where are you? How far? Can you do some cornrows on my hair? Have someone that will serve as an accountability partner. And the same is true even with spirituality and growing in your faith as a believer. Have someone who could ask you, how are you doing faith-wise? And to whom you will not lie, but say the truth. The third thing that you want to do, that I'll advise you when it comes to growing and taking change, action for change, is to have a mentor. And I know the term mentor has been abused. Sometimes they say father, sometimes they say mentor, sometimes they say superior. But what I mean here is to have someone that you look up to, but who also knows you. Have people that you are looking up to that can hold your hand and bring you up. It's a nice thing to have an accountability partner because they might be at the same level as you, trying to change their behavior, try to develop themselves more. But it's another thing to have a mentor who has done that journey ahead, who has done that journey before you, who knows the pitfalls, who knows what to avoid and what to look out for. That person is in a better position, a much, much better position to hold your hand and to help you forward. In a sense, think about it as a hand that is coming down to pull you up. That's what a mentor looks like. Well, that's kind of the role of a mentor. So if I have to recap, if you're trying to enact change and you've reached the point, the third phase of change where you are taking an action and you really want to make it happen, but you don't know how to do it, the first thing I would say is start with the smallest of steps. Baby steps first. The second thing is find an accountability partner. And the third thing again is to find a mentor, someone that could take you and pull you up because they've been through that. But I also need to emphasize a point. Sometimes before action comes preparation. And why did I choose to put action before preparation? Because sometimes it happens that there are things that you can start doing without the preparation. If you're on a quest for self-development, for example, you don't need much preparation. You just need to start learning. A lot of tools are available for you. But sometimes the action might be something bigger. The action you might want to take or the change you are trying to make happen is to shift from being an employee to being an employer. For example, you're trying to start a business. In that sense, you need a lot of preparation before jumping into the action of creating a business or starting a non-for-profit or starting a project. And what is preparation in this sense? There are three ways by which I like to understand preparation. The first preparation is the spiritual preparation. Do you have capacity to hold this project from the start to the end? It's a nice thing to start, but it's a far better thing to end it. It's a beautiful thing to begin, but it's a more difficult thing to keep it sustainable. So do you have the spiritual capacity to lead this project from the beginning to the end? This is where preparation, spiritual preparation comes in. It comes in through seeking to know God more. It comes in through trying to read your Bible more, praying more, worshiping more, building capacity, saturating yourself with the knowledge of God, saturating yourself with the wisdom of God, saturating yourself with the promises of God. When it comes to spiritual development and preparation, it is important that you do not take it lightly. The second type of preparation that I like to talk about is the holistic preparation. That involves emotions, that involves your capacity, how you react to things, that involves your mood. Have you trained yourself enough to bear the emotional and the mental burden of starting the action you want to start? Again, This is talking about major actions usually. You are trying to start a business. You are trying to start a new project. You are trying to start a new program as part of your business or non-for-profit or whatever you are doing. You are trying to start a new degree. Do you have the mental capacity, the emotional capacity to bear the burden? Do you have the mental capacity to take in the stress without breaking, without burning out? That's where you need to build your capacity in terms of holistic preparation. And the third type of preparation that I want to talk about is a physical preparation. Body, your body, your body. And let me take a very clear example. You're trying to run a marathon, and I attended the marathon of a friend of mine a couple of months back, and I definitely cannot do it. But she did it. But as we're talking before her taking the marathon, she was telling me, Glory, I don't really know if I want to go for a whole marathon or for a half marathon. And she ended up going for a half marathon. And do you know the reason? She said that I haven't had time to train myself enough to take a whole marathon. That was the reason for her taking a half marathon. She trained herself, but she knew that the capacity of strength she built up in her flesh, in her body, in her physics was not enough to carry her throughout a full marathon. So she chose to do a half marathon. You know that if you're an athlete or you're trying to go for an athletic type of action, you need to train your physique. But not even that. Even if you're trying for a new job, you need to train your physiques. You need to be healthy enough to be able to wake up in the morning, rush cooking for yourself, rush to work, come back. If you have a family, cook for the family. You know, it takes preparation, and that preparation is also in your physics. It's also in your body. Are you in shape? Will you need to be in shape and healthy? I'm not just talking about shape here as trend that idolize women that are thinner than thin. I'm not just talking about that, but are you healthy enough? Are you in shape for the kind of action you want to take? Are you okay? So I've talked about preparation, and if you need preparation before taking your action, please prepare yourself. If it is a small action like reading more books, it's easier. You don't need a lot of preparation. But for most of the huge tasks of life, you will need preparation. You've been writing grants, for example, to build something, to start a non-for-profit. Are you sure you've prepared yourself? There's some intellectual preparation that sometimes, and most oftentimes, we neglect, but that is important. You want to open a business, have you learned the basics of accounting? Have you learned the basics of people management? Have you learned the basics of technology, especially nowadays where technology is what can differentiate you from the business right next door? Have you learned those things? Have you learned the art of financial management? Have you tried to understand organizational dynamics, how organizational charts works, who should be the boss, who should be the leader, how to recruit, how not to recruit, who to accept, who not to accept, how to build partnership, how sustainability happens, how to make strategic planning? There is a lot of intellectual preparation that we usually fail to do, and that ends up bleeding us to death when it comes to the action we are trying to make. Lay the foundation right, please. Prepare yourself right. You need to make an action, a very crucial action. Prepare yourself right. You are trying to relocate. Prepare yourself right. You are trying to build something from scratch. Prepare yourself right. Spiritually, holistic in terms of your emotion and your mental health, intellectually in terms of the bundle of knowledge you need to know. Please try your best to find it and learn it. And even in your shape, in your body, in your physical, please be prepared. When you've done with the preparation, you will now be ready to conquer that action more easily. What now happened after the preparation and the action? Number 5 is maintenance. In the stages of change, you want to be able to maintain the action you are doing. It is not enough to do it once and for all. It is not enough to go to the gym one time in a year. It is not enough to read one book in a year. It's not enough to read one chapter in a whole year. Consistency. That's what we call maintenance. And maintenance here involves building systems around your life that will enable you to keep that action going consistently despite other things that you may have to do. Maintenance sometimes will look like putting an hour block in your schedule, on your calendar, where you dedicate that moment specifically to working on that task. You've been wanting to improve your journey, self-discovery. You've been wanting to start a business and you need to read books about what a business should look like. Maybe block a time, 1 hour per day or 30 minutes per day, baby steps again. 30 minutes per day where you are reading specifically on that topic. You're trying to go for the gym, block an hour from 5 to 6, from 5 to 5:30. Immediately as I leave work, I go to the gym first. I trek 10,000 steps per day, 6,000 steps per day, no matter what I'm doing, even if it takes trekking from my work or from my school back home. The more you build systems around your life that maintain the actions you do, the more you are not likely to relapse. I hate putting the 6th stage in this change, but the truth is that if you don't maintain the behavior, if you don't maintain the action, you are very, very likely to relapse. And what relapse looks here is like you started strong, you were reading, and then one of the blues, you stopped, and it's now been 2 months, 3 months, a year that you haven't read. You started well when you were just a new believer. You were praying, you were going to church, praying, pressing to know God more. But now you've relapsed because you didn't build a system of maintenance. Or you started a business. At first, you were really cultivating yourself about what business looks like. You were talking to people, doing informational interviews. You were really putting yourself out there to learn a little bit more about business. And because of that, and the knowledge you were getting and the spiritual backing of God, you were excelling in business. And then you reach a high and then you started plateauing. Why did you plateau? Because you didn't build a system that could maintain the same behavior, the same actions that took you to the high place where you were once upon a time. So maintain. Build systems that will maintain the actions that yield results for you. Build systems that will maintain the systems, that will maintain those actions, those crucial things that you do that brings change. If you are a writer and you are trying to write, for example, build a system where nobody distracts you at particular times because you are just writing. Whether you have the inspiration or not, whether you feel like it or not, you just do it. Put people as safeguards if you need when you are building systems. Systems can be part of schedules. Systems can be accountability partners again. Systems can be people you report to. Systems can be mentors, sponsors. Sometimes even in business, systems can be investors because they'll ask you back, where is the money? What have yielded from this? Build a system. Don't go through the process of pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and then you fail in maintenance and you relapse. It's painful. It's painful. I know that you will be blessed today, and I hope that by now you understand how change works and what are the stages of change. We talked about pre-contemplation, where you don't even realize, you don't accept it as a problem yet, to contemplation, where you know it is a problem, but you are still debating, should I engage, should I change this, to preparation, where you prepare yourself for the very plausible action you take, then you enact the action, then you build system up to maintain. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but when I was younger, there was a proverb that my mother kept saying. She said, to be the first of the class is easy, to stay first is difficult. Because once you become first, every other person in the class are like, I can beat her too. I can be the first. So it takes twice as much work sometimes to stay the first of the class than it was to become the first of the class. So when you enact the action. You put in strength, you put in work, you pushed and birthed that action. Know that it will take twice as much work to sustain it. And when it is sustained, the beautiful thing is that it becomes a behavior. It becomes part of you where you feel somehow, you feel disdained, you feel uncomfortable for not reading. You feel uncomfortable that 1 week passed, you haven't read 2 chapters. You feel uncomfortable that a day passed, you haven't listened to a podcast, or you haven't read, or you haven't done anything that challenged your intellectual, that challenged your mindset. You're like, no, I must do this. It's the same thing when you start bathing every day. Some of us bathe 2 times a day, some people bathe 3 times, some people bathe 1 time. But as you keep doing it, a point comes where if you don't bathe for a day, you're like, I should go and take my bath. Even if you come late and it's like 1 a.m., you're like, I must bath before I sleep. Or I must brush before I sleep. It becomes something that is uncomfortable not to do. What happened there is that the thing you were once fighting to enact change upon has now become a behavior. It has now become part of you, and it's easier to enact that way. Thank you so much again for listening to this video. I will say, if you're new here, please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Like, drop a comment, and share with a friend. Remember, this is the place where young people are made to be leaders that God can trust and that men will want to follow. Please do not leave this place without enacting change in your life. In whatever stage of change you find yourself, please decide to take an action to get out of it. And if you're in the action stage, congratulations. Do not forget to build maintenance systems. Have a great day. It was, again, my pleasure having you on Leading with Glory. Thank you.